We are sorry we are 2-3 minutes late. There was some technical issue. Today we have a very special guest all the way from Ohio, Greg, who is the CEO of Dexi Protocol. Welcome, Greg, for our Founders Under Crypto Spotlight series. It's really nice to have you. I know it's early morning for you, so thank you for taking out time and talking to our viewers today.
Yeah, no problem. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me. I do want to clarify. I'm the COO of Dexio Protocol.
CEO, all right, my bad. Sorry, you're CEO.
Yeah, I don't want to take Don's job.
Nice. So, Greg, I hope you had a good, exciting morning today.
I
When you
did, yeah. I've been cranking away on working on some of the gaming stuff with Don and some of our developers.
Awesome, awesome. So, tell us about yourself, Greg. What have you been doing? What was Greg before getting into Dexy? What has Greg been doing?
So yeah, I am obviously I'm a American. I grew up out in California, and then I've actually lived in a lot of places, but I've been in Ohio for about 27 years. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm 45, so I'm old in the crypto
Oh,
space.
you
I'm like
don't
I'm like
you
I'm
don't
like,
look 45.
believe me, I feel it. But yeah, so I've actually owned my own businesses since I was 19. Um,
Oh
uh,
wow, that's
yeah,
like you've been being an entrepreneur almost all your life now.
that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, and I have worked for other people too in that time frame, and ran my own businesses. But for the last 15 years, is that right? Yeah, for the last 15 years, I've been on my own. I've done a bunch of consulting work and different stuff. So I own a music lesson company, a home remodeling company. I owned an organic juice company at one point that I sold, and um,
Oh,
I've done a lot of stuff. So and worked as a consultant in the bar and restaurant business, and yeah. So I got into crypto. Actually, I did my initial investing in crypto through a friend of mine with Bitcoin, like I don't know, 8 years ago, 2014, I think. Or
that
15.
must be around what, 500 USD?
Yeah, yeah.
Almost.
So I literally like a friend of mine was like, hey, he was telling me about it, and I had heard about Bitcoin, right? And so I was like, well, I'll give you some money, and you can invest it for me, and we made some money. So I don't remember
You
what
made
all.
some money or you made a lot of money, depending on.
I think I doubled my investment. I think I put in like $2,500 and made like $2,500. Um, but I think it was 2016 actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, but in any event, so and then I kind of wasn't really paying attention to the crypto space until about 2 years ago. Some of my family and friends were starting to invest, getting more involved in crypto, so I started paying a lot more attention to it, and started investing again, and really got kind of excited about it in the last probably year, and really started to focus on it. Uh, Probably a little more than a year ago, but anyways, so yeah, so that's how I got to this place.
That's interesting. So you have a entire huge successful journey in the non-crypto world, and now you're in the crypto world to make a successful
Yeah,
journey.
yeah, I've done a lot of stuff, man.
That's amazing. So what made you get into the space back a year and a half, 2 years back? What was the incident that put you back into?
Well, actually, so my I have some family that have been investing in crypto since 2013, and kind of talking to me about it.
Wow.
Friends of mine also, and what really started to attract me to it was the development of the technology itself. Right, I started thinking about all the things that I was doing in
Mm,
business, and thinking about all of the kind of cumbersome mechanics of especially record keeping and document translation. So uh, uh, what really became mostly interesting to me is I was just started to look at what blockchain was doing in terms of literally just tracking information in a way that was um, instantaneous, seamless, and immutable. Right, it couldn't be changed. And so I was like, man, this is the future. This is what everything is going to be doing. And I started thinking about my own experiences because I'm old, right? I remember life before the internet, right? And I remember life before cell phones, right?
yeah.
So and and I started thinking about my own experience with, you know, how, you know, in 2000, uh, I guess 5 or not 2005. I'm sorry, 1995. Uh, I'm getting my decades confused. And like 1995, I graduated from high school and I moved into my first apartment and got my first internet connection. And I started really thinking about the process from getting internet at my house, my 14.4 dial-up modem, you know, to what internet is today. And I could, even at that time, I could clearly see that this was something that was going to change things, right? And I don't think I could, I wasn't old enough or experienced enough to really understand how much it was going to change things. But, even after just 4 or 5 years, and 98, 99, right before the tech bubble burst, it was really clear that internet was going to, completely radically change business and everything. And so I'm looking at blockchain in the same way. I'm just like, hey, this is kind of the beginning of this whole process, and this is really going to change everything. And then, you know, the other part of it that became obvious is that all these major corporations were started, um, you know, picking up crypto portfolios, right? So, and the funny thing about that was they were trying to hide it, but then they couldn't really hide it because they had to, show their, quarterly, earnings reports, and they had to show they had to show their publicly traded companies. They had to show where their money was at, right? So all this stuff started to come to light, and it was just like, okay, if Apple and is investing in crypto, then probably it's going to be a big thing. So um, that's kind of where my head was at, and I think that was the right call, right? I mean, obviously, everything is getting shifted into.
So you got it, the fever of missing out everything. So you're like, now I have to look at it more
Yeah,
seriously than I was till now.
I guess there's a little bit of FOMO there, right? I don't think I was that late, but anyways.
No, that's right. And as you mentioned about the internet being back in 94 doing the in the 1994 95 when the dial-up used to happen to now, you have seen the internet coming from that to the Wi-Fi to the mobile versions, starting from your QWERTY to the touchscreen, now entirely decentralized version. It's interesting, and I agree with you, that this is just starting for the technology, and there's a huge ocean that we still need to explore and see, where things
Oh,
are going.
yeah, the possibilities are really like
Yeah.
and every day I feel like because I'm a very avid reader. I'm constantly reading blogs and news articles, um, and my team, we're all sharing stuff all the time. And I feel like every day I'm reading things and I'm just like, oh wow, that's like another thing that we can do with this. And actually one of our big investors has a friend who buys music venues, and one of the things he's doing is he's wanting to implement an NFT project to allow for digital tickets basically to these
Right.
music. So even I mean, that's not particularly revolutionary, but even things like that, I'm just like, oh yeah, like that's another use for it, and that's another use for it, and that's another use for it, right? It keeps the whole thing. It's just like
Working.
the internet, right? It's just like, oh, that's another use for it. That's another, and this is just there's gonna be a parabolic move with that, right?
Yeah.
So and that's the kind of phase that we're in right now. I think we're in that, we're
In
in
the
that.
trajectory. Yes, we are going to the tip of it.
You're
Exactly.
right.
Yes, that's that. So let's talk about Dexi protocol. What it is. What are you guys working on in Dexi protocol?
Yeah, so I say this all the time, and I repeat it constantly in live streams and in interviews. So our vision is a world in which blockchain technology is mainstream and vastly more people are connected by it. Okay, so what does that mean?
Hmm.
That's our
That's a
synthesized way.
very powerful statement. Now I
Okay.
would like to really deep dive and understand the vision behind it.
Well, and here's the thing that I'll say about that, man, is that I don't think that vision is particularly different than most projects' vision, right? I think that's everybody that's in the space kind of sees things that way, right? The
Hmm.
the the blockchain technology is going to become mainstream. It already is becoming mainstream, right? And it is connecting people in ways that we haven't been connected before. And it's, any valuable thing that we do either solves a problem or makes something more efficient, right? That's
True.
any product that we use, anything that we do. If we're changing what we're using, right? It's either solving some problem that what we're using is causing, or some problem that we have, right? Or it's making something more efficient, right? And blockchain technology actually does both of those things, right? So it solves the problem of efficiency and it solves the problem of centralization, although there's obviously some complexities with that too, right? Um, and then it makes things more efficient too. Things that we're already doing, record keeping, financial records, medical records, everything that we're doing in terms of record keeping, right? Civilization is built on the fact that we kept records, right?
Exactly, it is.
The entire civilization, every civilization is built on the fact that somebody started saying, okay, there's this much stuff and there's this much stuff, and you have this stuff and I have this stuff, and you're going to give me this stuff and I'm going to give you that stuff, right? So that's all that the blockchain is. It's just a digital ledger, right? It's just a way
True.
for us to keep track of things in real time, in a totally immutable way, meaning nobody can change that, right? Once it's on
Mhm.
there, it can't be changed, right? I mean, what happens to it afterwards can be changed, but anyways, that moment in time, that timestamp cannot be changed. So we know it's truth, right? We always joke, my team, we always joke with each other, the block is truth, right? Anytime that somebody has a question about something or something's not, we're like, hey, this happened or what happened? We're like, well, just check the block because the block is truth, right? So if it's not on the block, it didn't happen. So um, and that works 100% of the time, right? So
Mhm.
vision is a world in which blockchain technology is mainstream and vastly more people are connected by it. Okay, so blockchain technology is becoming mainstream and people are getting more connected by it, but how do we facilitate that? How do we first of all, how do we find our niche in that? How do we become involved in that? But how do we facilitate that?
Hmm.
And the way that we've and really this comes from Don's initial vision of Dexio Protocol, and then of course that's evolved over time as more and more people have joined the team, and we've had more community feedback. But the main way that I think we're going to attract people to blockchain is by giving them something that they can do, that they're going to either need or want, right? That they're going to something that's going to be fun or that is going to make their lives better. And uh, solve some problem, right? Or make something more efficient, right? We're going to give them products that they can use that they can become familiar with and
Hmm.
then make their way into using blockchain technology. And I do want to clarify, and something that I think often gets really confused. Blockchain is not crypto, and crypto is not necessarily blockchain. And I mean, it needs blockchain, but I think the important distinction is that blockchain can kind of exist independent of crypto, and I know this is in uh, direct contradiction to something that actually CZ has said multiple times. But anyways, blockchain can operate independent of at least value-based crypto,
Hmm.
but crypto can operate independent of the blockchain, right?
Hmm.
So the technology of blockchain itself is something that is going to be pervasive in everything that we do, and that's the purpose, right? The purpose is the blockchain. That's the reason we're doing what we're doing. We are um, tracking information in, again, a seamless, instantaneous, immutable way. The way that we connect to that is through crypto, right? So that's how we connect to the blockchain. That's how we interact with the blockchain, is through crypto. So um, how are we going to bring more people in? We're going to give them something fun to do, right? We have a whole gaming ecosystem that we're building. We have one of our
Interesting.
Yeah, we have one of our games is already in is in kind of a full beta version. We're about to implement a whole bunch of stuff to kind of put it into its new version. That's the game that we call Dexy Nights. We're just about to get ready to launch our initial 5-city beta of our flagship augmented reality application we call Dexy Hunter. We can talk more about that. And then we have a couple of other games that we are about to actually push out that we can talk about, and some more games in the pipeline that we're working on too. So now, why gaming? Because how do people learn? Do people learn by like just being like, you need to learn this? And that's not
Mhm.
how it learns, right? What do we do with kids when we first
Hmm.
initiate them into school, right? We initiate them into school through generally games. How do we initiate people into their, most of their social functions? And actually their spiritual functions, right? What do kids do at at churches or temples? They tend to play games, right? That's an easy way for people to interact with each other and learn something in a fun way, right? So that's what that's why we're doing gaming. We're doing gaming because we want to bring people in, and we think that that's an excellent way to um, connect people to the blockchain.
That's very interesting. You guys are trying to bring in more people into the Web3 space and gaming, as you said, gaming. That's what we all do on a daily life. We play games and we learn from that. As kids, what preschool kids do? They play games. They play different kinds of games to remember and match things. These are all types of games. Even in today, if you look at it, when we are looking at different kinds of strategies, how are we going about it, is by playing some games to keep making our mind work, and how things are going about. But what are these games that you are building in Dexio Protocol, to ensure that every people are able to interested into this space? And how is that interaction? It's a twofold question. How is that interaction you guys are doing, between, so if say I'm a gamer or somebody who comes on joins the game, how do I interact with the blockchain part of Web3?
That's the trick, right? How do we get people to play the games um, and and then entice them to interact with the blockchain through the gaming, right?
Mhm.
So one thing that we've learned in the last, probably 6 to 9 months, and the data is showing us, is that a lot of traditional gamers, a lot of the people who would call themselves gamers, right? They're not actually playing the NFT games. Um, and why is that? It's because they probably just don't understand it, or it seems, it's outside of their comfort zone, right? So we are going out of our way to build games that, number one, can be played without interacting with the blockchain. Okay, so that's a twofold uh, issue. Number
Mhm.
one, um, you know, we have to have a business in place, and that business has to have revenue models, right? Pay for the operations of the business. So
Mhm.
um, we need to be able to make sure that our games are playable even in places where there's restrictions on crypto, or playable for people who may have restrictions on crypto, like, for example, minors in the US are not legally allowed to interact with crypto, right? So the games can be played without interacting with crypto. That's the first thing. Okay. And there's revenue models that we're putting in place to make sure that um, that Dexio Protocol, the business, generates revenue from the gaming portion of what we're doing, independent of crypto. And I'll get back to that in a second. The
Mhm.
other thing we're doing is that we're trying to create different types of games that will um, uh, entice different types of gamers to play the games, and then also non-gamers to play the games. So the flagship product that we're working on, and that, as I said, we're just getting ready to launch in our Vive City beta, is what we call the Dexy Hunter app, which is an augmented reality application. And for lack of a better description, which I honestly don't like this description, but anyways, it's easy to understand it. It's often referred to as Pokemon Go for crypto. Okay, so well, what is that? That means that we have augmented reality objects that are out there, tagged to longitude, latitude lines, and people can collect those objects and earn crypto and also non blockchain.
Uh, Very interesting.
Right. So that is a super complex application that we've been working on for like 9 months. And we've built in a whole social function to it. So chatting and friends, and it's tracking your steps, not your steps, but really your kilometers that you're walking. So it's got a health sort of portion to it. We really want this thing to be something that, you know, people can really sink their teeth into and enjoy and get a lot from, right? And there's an educational portion to that too. When people are collecting those augmented reality assets, they're required to answer some questions that you know that we ask them through the application about crypto, or about the project that they're collecting crypto from, or the NFT they're collecting stuff from, or the businesses that we partner with, that we
Mhm.
QR codes for those businesses in that application. Again, remember, revenue models, revenue streams. This is a business that has to function. One of the problems with a lot of existing crypto projects is that, you know, as I see it as a businessman, a lot of times I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's cool, but how are you guys like generating any money? Like you have to generate, um, and you have to have a business model in place that supports the operations of the business and provides, you know, capital to invest further in the business and the development of the business outside of just bringing in investment capital. That doesn't, you know, unless you know, can generate revenue, then investment
True, makes
capital.
sense.
Yeah, so so we're creating different games, and the augmented reality application Dexy Hunter. We have a sword fighting arcade style game that's kind of more for your you know, people who enjoy that kind of, you know, hand to hand combat style games. We have a game that we call Dexy Dragons, which you'll kind of collect a bunch of dragons and have player versus player team competitions. And then another game that we're uh, producing and getting ready to roll out for beta that we call Dexy Carnival, which is really just a bunch of mini games like skee ball and, you know, coin push and all kinds of stuff, kind
Mhm.
of time killers, you know, games that people can play when they're, you know, just kind of sitting around, you know, waiting at the dentist's office or whatever they're doing. So we're trying to create a portfolio of games that can really attract lots of different types of people, but the play to earn mechanics in those games is very consistent in terms of time and investment. And what I mean by that is that you won't be able to play one game or another game and really do much better in the one game than you can in the other game. Um, oh,
Can,
uh, notification that something was, the live stream is off, but it doesn't seem like it is. So
no, no, it's not. It's going fine.
yeah, so you know, we want to make it fair. And then the other thing that we're doing that I think is really interesting that people are really going to dig is we are in the process of putting the finishing touches on what we're calling a super login system. And what that is going to do is you'll have a single login that will
Hmm.
allow you to get into our entire ecosystem. And all of the things that you do in that will be connected. So you won't, each one of these products, both the games and then the rest of our ecosystem products like our wallet and our marketplace and all that. Well, the wallet actually won't be part of the login system, but that needs to be separate. But you know, all the things that you do with us are all going to be housed in one place. And so, you know, if you're playing one game and you collect an asset that can be used in another game, you actually will be able to use that in another game.
That's actually very interesting, and that was my follow-up question, which you just answered. Uh, and just tell me one thing. So you talked about the ecosystem and everything, and you talked about Dexy Hunter, which is something like a Pokemon Go. And I remember back in the day when Pokemon Go came, was launched, it was a sensation. I myself remember downloading it. So I am not a gamer, but I like to, go on and explore different games, and whenever I'm bored, I like to give a
Yeah,
try to the same thing. So I remember I was stuck in traffic and I had Pokemon Go. I did downloaded it recently, so I decided that what best to utilize your time is start looking at Pokemons at that time. And I think so within a stretch of 15 minutes of traffic jam, I was able to catch around 10. So I was very happy that that was a
wow,
successful day. Uh,
wow.
and that was by chance, by fluke, that happened. A lot of them were a double, but yes, like but still, I was able to do 10 catches that time. So when you're when we when say if I download Dexy Hunter tomorrow, and is it mobile friendly? The games.
Yeah, so well, you won't be able to download Dexy Hunter tomorrow, and yeah, we're going to do this the 5 city beta here probably in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to make sure the mechanics work. But yeah, so Dexy Hunter is a mobile application, um, and Dexy Dragons and Dexy Carnival will both be mobile applications. Dexy Knights is a PC only game because it's a very robust game, and it just is. It's not going to work on mobile. And then we have two other games in kind of back end development, something that we call Dexy Hero, which is kind of your, for lack of a better term, kind of Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, that kind of thing. It's a card game, but
Mm-hmm.
the characters are based on. There's an integration of all these games, right? So the heroes in Dexy Hero are actually characters from the other games. Um,
Oh,
another
interesting.
we have another game that we've been developing for a while, and we kind of stopped some of the development on as we worked on some of this other stuff. You can only do so many things, but that we call Legends of the Dexyverse, and that's an RPG styled game that we're eventually going to evolve into an MMORPG. And again, that's going to be a PC only game because it'll just be way too robust. So we'll have 3 PC games and 3 mobile games. And I think that's a nice spread for people.
That's an amazing spread to start with. It's not nice. It's an amazing spread. So tell me one thing. So if I find any assets in Dexy Hunter and I want to use, as you mentioned, the heroes, Dexy heroes is all the heroes from different games. So how is it? Is it within your ecosystem you're providing a chance for, gamers or people are coming playing the game to exchange the assets there, or they'll have to be associated with another application.
So that's a great question. So the best way to understand this is there are 2 different types of assets. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's blockchain assets,
Uh-huh.
and there's actually a non-blockchain currency that we call Dexy Cash. Okay,
Okay,
and then there's blockchain assets, and a blockchain currency that we call Dexy Gas. Okay,
got it.
so you currently can purchase NFTs, upgradable NFTs, meaning that they're NFTs that evolve over time as you use them in the game. You currently can buy those NFTs for Dexy Nights on our DXG Game Emporium, and you can sell them there. So you can buy and sell your NFTs. So if you buy an NFT for, let's say, what amounts to be $10 of Dexy Gas, and you use that NFT in the game for a couple of weeks, a month, whatever, and the
Mm-hmm.
experiences that that NFT has actually upgrades its abilities. You can then
Mm-hmm.
go around and sell it on the DXG Game Emporium for probably more than you bought it for, right?
Got
Because
it.
somebody else is going to want to just get a better weapon, right?
And
And not
and pass a level.
Right, not have to grind it out, right?
Yeah.
Now, why do you want to have a better weapon? Well, because it makes the game, more enjoyable. You can earn more in the game as we're doing the
Mm-hmm.
play mechanics. But as we're implementing the player versus player functions, where there's going to be loot drops and people are really going to compete for different prizes, right? In the player versus player functions and the
Mm-hmm.
tournaments that we do. And they're going to want to have better weapons because they're going to want to, kick some butt, right? So somebody who maybe doesn't have a lot of resources can buy a basic NFT, play the game, grind it out, upgrade that NFT, and then
Sell it or
well in the player versus player, or sell it on the Emporium to somebody else who doesn't want to go through all of that and just wants to
yeah.
have a better NFT. On the non-blockchain side of things, people will just be able to earn Dexy Cash or purchase Dexy Cash through our website and our store. They'll be able to get these non-blockchain items, which will help them play the game, but then are also just sort of cool things, skins. We have these pets that we're going to do that we're going to be able to follow you around, and they might have some different mechanics in them. So, but they won't be able to trade those non-blockchain assets. So the only thing they're going to be able to trade is the blockchain assets. And again, I think it's important to understand this hybrid model that we're looking at. We want people to play the games.
Mm-hmm.
If they play the games, they don't want to do anything with NFTs, fine. But they're going to play the games, and then they're going to realize that they probably should get some NFTs, right?
Yeah. Finally, eventually, they would want to just to get the real feel
Right?
of the
So
thing.
I feel like it's like almost like a drug dealer, like, hey man, look over here.
Yeah,
Uh,
you are
uh,
giving your FOMO to everyone once they start playing with not blockchain.
we're giving teasers, right? So no, but I mean, in all seriousness, that's the point, right? That's what we're after.
It makes sense. So tell me, so if we look at the NFT bit of the Web3 blockchain part of your gaming side, uh, will the gamers also getting some tokens or to win? And how are your tokenomics? What are the use cases for tokenomics and how the tokenomics are working?
So we have 2 tokens currently, right? We have Dexy, which we launched in May of 2021, and then we have Dexy Gas,
Hmm.
which we launched in October of 2021. And Dexy they're both tokens now because they're both currently on the Binance Smart Chain. And uh, the reason why we have these 2 different currencies or 2 different tokens is because they're going to have 2 entirely different functions, right? And um, okay, so let me get to this. So we're currently building our own blockchain that we call the Smart Dexio Network. And when
Okay.
we move to the Smart Dexio Network, Dexi will become the coin, right? Will become the native coin of the network, in the same way that uh, ETH or uh, BNB or whatever.
Yeah.
Same, yeah, in a layer one coin, and DexiGas will become the token. So why do we have these two different things? Because we want Dexi to become a store of value and to become um, uh, the uh, governance token of the network. Okay, it will also function in the network because it'll you know, Dexi and DexiGas will be interchangeable through liquidity pools for gas fees. So, and I don't want to get too deeply into that stuff, but we can talk more about the Smart Dexio network in a bit. But and then Dexi Gas will be the in-game currency, the thing that is actually driving the economy of the blockchain side of the games, right?
Mhm.
And I think this is important and an important thing to understand. There's been a lot of questions about why we did this and why we're doing it. So we have to have a currency that we can control the supply of.
True.
Okay, and so one of the things that we've seen happen to some of the play to earn games, and I'm not going to mention names, but in like October, I was like telling my team and also my community, I'm like, hey, there's something wrong with this way that they're doing these things, and this is kind of a Ponzi scheme, and it's going to fall apart. And I don't mean that these other play to earn games set out with the intention of being Ponzi schemes. I don't think that that's what they meant, but it was just set up in a way that I mean, okay, so like SLP like went to 40x of where it
Yeah.
was about. Like that's not a reasonable thing for something that's supposed to be a functioning currency, right? Like imagine if the rupee or the dollar suddenly was 40 times more valuable than it would make things impossible to manage, right? Part of the reason why economies
Russia is facing that right now
right
with all
exactly
the sanctions. Yeah.
right exactly so or decreasing in value radically, right? That's another huge problem. So one of the reasons why economies work is because people have the expectation that the value of the currency that they're using is going to be at least similar today than it will be tomorrow, right? that's
Mhm.
that's part of our we operate under this expectation. And if you have wild fluctuations in the thing that's actually driving the economic engine of something, that can cause a lot of problems for people's set of expectations, right? And it makes especially people who are investing in something nervous. So we want to have control over that currency, and that's what DexiGas is for us, right? We want to have control over that. We're going to mint and burn DexiGas or recirculate it through mechanics, which I won't get too deeply into, but that's the purpose of that. And it'll drive the in-game economy, the NFT side of the in-game economy. It'll be interchangeable as a gas token on the network through liquidity pools, and we can kind of control that supply. Now, does that mean that I don't want the value of it to go up over time? Absolutely, we do. Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely, we want it to be an investment grade product, but we don't want it to go like this all the time. Like that's not
You want a smoother trajectory of the graph.
exactly right, because then that allows people the that affords them the opportunity to have reasonable expectations of the value of the thing that they're using in the games, right?
Yeah.
And then Dexy becomes the governance token, the store of value, and we don't want that to be wildly fluctuating either. We want that to just continuously go up, but that's not reality, right? There's going to
Yeah.
be pumps and falls, and so anytime in the life cycle of any, if you look at BTC or anything, anytime in the
Mhm.
life cycle of anything that's gone up over time, it doesn't look like this, right? It looks like this, right?
True.
Um, and so that's what we're after. And in terms of tokenomics, currently we have a 5% fee on both Dexy and DexiGas. I think we haven't decided whether or not we're going to continue to have any kind of tokenomics once we're moved over to our own network. But for now, that's where things are going to be is that 5% fee.
Very interesting. So tell me one thing, with the gaming industry in the Web3 space is all interacting with Metaverse, and now you have two sides of scenarios. You have one is for the non-blockchain world, people who want to, remain in the internet side of things, and one is who want to, explore the Web3 and the new side of gaming industry. Are you guys also looking at a metaverse for your gamers, for your
Yeah,
audience to start
absolutely.
inside?
Right. So one of the concepts that we're developing for the Dexy Hunter application, which is
Mm-hmm.
really what the metaverse is going to be for us, is something that we call Dexy zones. So that'll be augmented reality real estate space that we will be able to sell to people to use in whatever way they want to. And for now, I think that's as much as I want to say about that because we're still developing that concept. But we know Metaverse is going to be a part of what we're doing, and we definitely are excited about the possibilities of that. I have to be totally honest and say that it makes me uneasy. Right? It's like the DAO stuff, right? So no, I don't mean DAOs in the decentralized autonomous organization sense. I mean like the actual application of DAOs and rebase tokens. So, I took one look at these things 6 months ago and was like, yeah, that's not a functioning system. I can't work, right? And of course, we've seen the, catastrophic collapse of many of these rebase and DAOs, right? So, because it doesn't take a very sophisticated business person to look at something like that and go, that's not sustainable. Give people like 100% APY in 12 days. Like that's just not, where's all that coming from? It has to come from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even my 12-year-old, when I explained it to him, he was like, wait, they're doing what? Like, where does all that come from? And I'm like, I don't know, from nowhere. So, with the metaverse stuff, I think we're going to see a lot more injection of capital into the metaverse. Obviously Walmart and everybody's getting into the metaverse. Chase just bought a whole bunch of decentral mana, Decentraland. I think that we're going to see, kind of a pullback from that in the next, 6 to 9 months, and there's going to
Mhm.
be kind of collapses of that, bubble. And so I think we're going to try to kind of ease our way into that through, as I said, this Dexy Zones concept that we're going to develop over time as part of the Dexy Hunter application.
Interesting. Are you a gamer yourself, Greg?
It's fun. Not at all, actually.
You're not.
No, I have 3 children, and they are extremely avid gamers, and they're like my test subjects. So,
So which is their favorite games out of all the six that you guys are?
well, I think my oldest is most excited about Dexy Hunter because I think he thinks that that's cool. Um, but the only game that they're able to play right now is Dexy Knights, and they love it. They think it's awesome. Um, but uh, you know, I think what's going to happen is that you're going to see, um, with our user base and our gamer base, there's going to be a real opportunity for people to really sink their teeth into new things. Right? We're going to try to engage people to try new things, and that one of those new things we're trying to engage them to try is crypto and blockchain. Right?
Interesting. So has your kids been able to look at the blockchain piece of gaming right now, or they still with Dex Cash right now, and not
There,
venturing into the
so
game?
my kids can play because I'm letting them play Dexy Nights using the NFTs in my profile and account, right?
Mhm.
But they're going to be able to play the games, the mobile applications without any crypto, right?
Mhm.
Um, and they're going to be able to play Dexy Hunter without actually connecting to the blockchain. In the U.S., kids can't. It's not allowed. So, but um, the kind of cool part about that is they familiarize themselves with these games, right? And they get older. They're going to be more and more and more interested in the blockchain side of it. I mean, my kids obviously are super interested in blockchain anyways because I'm involved in it, right? And they think it's really cool. Um, and they're excited about it. And I'm actually excited to see what happens with kids that age. You know, as I said, I remember the world before the internet, right? And
Mhm.
I grew up prior. I had the very first Mac. I was like
Oh,
or something. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm,
That's
I'm
like some gazillion years. Oh,
Well, it's
God.
38 years ago or whatever, right? So 39 years ago. So, I just remember the world before all this stuff, right? And some of the younger people that I work with now and that I know who grew up with these technologies, right? They have like a incredible understanding, like a visceral, innate understanding of things that I
True.
don't have because it was something I had to adjust to, right? It's almost like
You have to
who
learn about it, and it's not naturally that's coming to
it's like language, right? It's like a
you.
language, right? Like if you grow up speaking multiple languages, it's like natural to you. But if you try to
Yeah.
learn a language later, it's very cumbersome, right? Just ask Don about my Dutch pronunciations. But so it'll be interesting to see kids growing up with these blockchain NFT games
Mm.
and all of the blockchain technology stuff that's going to continue to get implemented into our regular lives, right?
Yeah.
The internet is implemented into our regular lives, and we don't even really think about it, right? Do we
Exactly.
think when you get on your phone and I message
Yeah,
somebody, are you
I know.
doing
We are talking today over internet, and you're using the
right?
power, the web too, and you're talking to everybody
Exactly.
in your community. Yeah.
Right. It's integrated into the fabric of everything that we do when we don't even think about it. That's what's going to happen with blockchain. But the people who are growing up with that, they're going to have an understanding of that is internalized, right?
Yeah.
That people like you and me, it's not internalized for
Yes,
because
we are
we're
learning about it. Yeah.
right. And it's important for people like you and me and other people, who are involved in crypto now to help foster and grow that, so that can become internalized for young people,
Uh-huh.
right? It's important for us to be involved in. But the young people, the you know, 10, 15-year olds that are, 5, 10 years from now as blockchain is integrated and everything, they're the people that are really going to think of the crazy things to do with blockchain.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh, and
Yes.
we have to encourage that. And the way that we're going to encourage that, I guarantee you, is through gaming.
Yeah, I'm sure because I have learned a lot of things about internet and about other things is through gaming myself. And even back in school, when we were learning about different subjects and everything, the things that you remember always is some things that you do practically, or some through games or something or the other. So that's on a similar note, recently last month on 1st of February, our finance minister had taken out a special budget out for the gaming industry, seeing how it has been, going about and booming in the country. So, do you have any plans for India? And if any, what does India look like as a market to you?
Well, so as you know, it is the second biggest market in the world, right?
Yes,
And,
in everything.
so it's a very important market, and it's one. I've done a couple of AMAs in some Indian groups, and we have a pretty small Indian community um,
That's
in our Telegram community. We Part of the reason why I was interested in talking to you guys and grateful for the opportunity to talk to you guys is because we know that's a big market for us that we need to tap into, and we need to figure out how to communicate and connect with um, you know our Indian friends. And like all places, India is a very complicated place, right? And there's lots of different kind of subcultures, right?
Mhm.
And so we have to kind of, I think, um, find ways to connect with all those different subcultures. And I'm hoping that this and other things that we're doing will help us do that because, you know, I mean, first of all, we have Indian, we have developers in India, um, of course,
I'm
right?
not surprised.
It's,
Every project has some Indian developers or developers coming from the subcontinent.
well, and all around you too. Like
Yeah,
so,
all around. Yeah, exactly. South Asia, there are developers in
oh,
every
yeah,
project.
yeah. So in Pakistan and Bangladesh, and
Yeah,
I mean, we're all around.
yeah.
So, but I think, and there's been some, I think, challenging news from your government as in terms of crypto recently, in terms of taxation and,
Well, it's more like looking it from a positive perspective to see how governments is trying to look at it in a positive limelight and not wanting to ban it. And well, if they any government sees people making money, they want a piece of it. So till the time till the time, as you mentioned, blockchain is not going to take over things, and we are not going to disrupt the ongoings of how centralized institutions are working. Everybody wants to make a buck and go
Well,
about.
it's interesting that you say that too, because and you're right. Actually, I had a conversation recently with a really interesting. I filmed there's a television segment that's going to be on a Dutch television station,
Mhm.
and the host of it is this guy, Jan. Jan and I were having a conversation about regulation, and he's very involved in what's happening with the Dutch crypto scene and the Dutch government, and with with digital currency, with the concept of government issued digital currencies.
Mhm.
And one of the things I said, and I mean, is that we do need regulation. Um, we it is kind of the Wild West, and there's a lot of really crazy things happening. There's a lot of scamming going on. There's a lot of hacking going on. There's a lot of you know outright Ponzi schemes happening.
True.
Bubble stuff happening. So we do need regulators. But the question that he posed to me, and actually the guy that set it up, Marvin, posed to me was, yeah, but who gets to pick those regulations? Who do we trust to regulate? Because it's certainly not the current governments. And in the U.S. anyways, I'm sure you guys have some sense of this, but they're really looking at stablecoin and regulating stablecoins, right?
Yes, it's easier to regulate a stable coin, as compared to the other currencies.
Yeah, right. That's the
Yeah,
first place they're going to go to, right?
yeah,
Because it makes sense to um, a bank what a stablecoin is, right?
exactly,
It,
exactly.
it's very hard to make sense out of the rest of, especially tokens. Anything that is a store of value, which is what a stablecoin is, that you can make sense out of that,
Yeah.
right?
My father is a banker, and that's what our maximum conversations are about. Why he says that crypto is something that he's still trying to understand. He knows blockchain is the future, but how does that volatility works? He's still not able to, from a banker's perspective. Once a banker, always remains a banker.
Hey man, and I'm a businessman, right? Like I'm very concerned about revenue models and operational costs, overhead. I'm concerned about making something work, right?
Mhm.
So um, but to your father's point, and I think what a lot of, especially people in sort of the next generation up from the one of Don's relatives, as Don said, kind of harps on all of crypto is just some giant Ponzi scheme. Well, no, it's not. But the you know all of capitalism in some way has a kind of Ponzi aspect to it, right? So
Exactly.
there is like the need for new capital to come in, right? Which is
Yeah.
kind of the definition of a Ponzi scheme. That has to be balanced against utility, right? You
Hmm.
can't have you can't just have money for the sake of money, right? You have
Correct.
to have money for the sake of some utility. Again, solve some problem or make something more efficient, right? So
Totally makes sense.
yeah, so I think what we're going to see with the regulation side of things is we're going to see, you know, more and more and more pressure to get control over the kind of wild aspects of what's going on with crypto to protect investors. Um,
Mhm.
and then as these institutions, begin to develop a better understanding of what blockchain is. And again, there is a distinction between blockchain and crypto. I know that this is again, I hear major figures in crypto say things like, you can't have blockchain without crypto and you can't have crypto without blockchain. Okay, that's totally untrue. Okay, you can have blockchain without value-based crypto. You absolutely can. You can have a blockchain and have it function without having investment-grade crypto in it. Like it just that's painfully obvious. Okay, but you can't have crypto without a blockchain. How would you keep track of it? Right, that's the whole nature of crypto. Right,
Mhm.
so it has to be on a blockchain. Right, so um, well, even that's not really true, right? Because how do liquidity pools work at centralized exchanges? They don't work on the blockchain, right? So there's a reason why Coinbase doesn't charge you very much to transfer USDT from one Coinbase account to another one, because they're not doing it on the blockchain. Um,
Mhm.
so they're not paying gas fees, right? So the I think the thing that we need to look at in all of that, as it relates to getting back to India and what's going on with India, and as you said, putting a positive spin on, hey, how do we make, we need to make sure that we're able to interact with and engage investors and customers and users and businesses all over the world. And how are
Mhm.
we to do that? How are we going to be flexible in doing that? By having this hybrid business model that I've talked
Mhm.
about.
Makes sense. And I think that it's a very interesting thing to have a hybrid, and giving it a slow process for people to get accustomed to the Web3 world. So I have a question now. If any of the Indian gamers want to sign up for your games for the beta trials or coming up, how can they go about doing it?
So they can download Dexy Nights on itch.io anytime they want to, and we're about to, once the login system that we're working on is really essential for us getting to the point where we can run out all the PPE and PvP mechanics of it, and be
Mhm.
able to keep track of it. So so the we're very close to that part, but they can download Dexy Nights on itch.io. They can uh, the my kind of so the 5 cities that we've picked for the Dexy Hunter beta are based on the communities that we have, and then boots on the ground, right? So one of those cities is going to be Columbus, Ohio, where I live, because I just know a lot of people. One of our attorneys lives here, and there's a
Mhm.
bunch of investors that live here. I've gotten a bunch of people involved in Dexy, so it's going to be a pretty easy. Um, uh, it's going to be a pretty easy, uh, you know, target.
Yeah, indeed.
And we have London, where we have boots on the ground, which is also a big city, and then Amsterdam, where Don and Tuan and Amy and actually Senna, a bunch of people from our team are actually based in Amsterdam. So
Mhm.
that, and boots on the ground. And then because of one of our community managers, who's also one of our assistant directors, Roxanne Tika, Roxy, we call her. She's gotten like 1,500 people in the Philippine community.
Oh,
Uh,
lovely.
in our Telegram chat. So we're gonna have her and a bunch of other people, Artie Crypto, a whole bunch of people. I don't want to
Mhm.
name here because I think they're watching, but I love you guys, and you guys have done great. But so we're gonna have one of the betas in Manila, and then we have a huge Turkish community, and we have for a long time,
Mhm.
and I have another big beta in Istanbul. So in terms of Indian cities, man, I would love there to be a big enough Indian community for me to justify launching one of the betas there.
Mhm.
But and I think we will. I think once people see what's going on with these other betas, they're
Yeah.
going to, there's going to be a lot more interest, and then it's going to be just a matter of joining our community, joining our Telegram, joining our Indian Telegram, and being active, and then being selected as one of those beta people.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, I I mean, what would be the best city for us to do in India?
I don't know, man. India is a big thing. I think the Bangalore or Hyderabad might be good cities to start with.
What were the two? Sorry.
Bangalore or Hyderabad. Uh,
Okay.
Even Pune has a lot of colleges, so Pune might be a good city to start with, because in colleges there are a lot of gamers and who like to go about with gaming. So
Yeah.
a shout out to the community, guys. If you want to really give a shot and be one of the beta testers, do join their Telegram community, and let's bring them to India in the next beta launch and have them have one of the Indian cities as part of the beta launch and make it big for them. We will share the Telegram India channel so you guys can join and interact with them. What are your roadmap for 2022, Greg? How does it look like besides the launch for your hunters, Dexy hunters? What else is there in plan for 2022?
So we currently have a digital wallet that we call the Dexy wallet, which is
Mm-hmm.
downloadable on iOS and Android. And we've decided that we wanted to just completely rebuild that, and do have a browser extension, so kind of like a MetaMask type wallet,
Mm-hmm.
um, but a lot better and cooler. And MetaMask is a little bit boring. It's a great wallet, don't get me wrong, but so we're relaunching our Dexy wallet, and with what we're calling Dexy Wallet 2.0, and that will have an integrated swap inside of it. And so we're also launching the Dexy Swap, which will enable people to swap, basically integrate into other the other decentralized exchanges. So they'll be able to swap on PancakeSwap through DexiSwap. They'll be able to swap on Uniswap through DexiSwap. And DexiSwap will also function as the way that we'll be able to migrate from Binance Smart Chain to the Smart Dexio network, and then people will be able to swap on the Smart Dexio network all the tokens that are on the Smart Dexio network. And that's another aspect of this that I didn't talk about much in the Smart Dexio network and the blockchain that we're doing. We are going to pair tokens with, Dexi, obviously, on the Smart Dexio network, just like tokens are paired with ETH or tokens are paired with BNB or whatever. But one of the things that we're doing, which I think is going to be really interesting, is we're going to partner with businesses, especially as it relates to the Dexi Hunter application, and drop QR codes, basically coupons for different businesses inside of the Dexi Hunter app to try to drive business from different areas of town into these businesses, and create some education for these businesses also. But one of the things that we're also going to offer those businesses the ability to do is to launch their own crypto on the Smart Dexio network paired with Dexi.
Very interesting.
And then we're going to do shared liquidity pools, kind of like what Solana's doing, but I think a little bit different. And so enable those businesses and those partner projects that want to launch in the Smart Dexio network a relatively low investment, in terms of having to provide liquidity, because they'll have shared liquidity pools, right? And so we'll balance liquidity. So that's one of the things that we're doing also. But so on the roadmap for 2022, there's a lot of stuff. So we got the Dexi Wallet 2.0 coming out, our super login system. We're going to upgrade the Dexi Knights for the P2P, our PvP and P2E mechanics, and then we're also launching the beta and then eventually full versions of 2 other games I mentioned, Dexi Dragons and Dexi Carnival. There's another 2 games that again are in production that we're once we get through those other ones, we're going to continue to work very hard on. Again, Legends of the Dexiverse and Dexi Hero. We have the Dexi Swap and migration to the Dexio network.
That sounds like an entire roller coaster and full of events for 2020.
There's more. We're launching a game center on the Smart Dexio network so that people who want to develop games will be able to develop games. To help sort of broaden our own ecosystem, but to give people the opportunity to do that too, like what we're doing. And then eventually we're going to launch our own payment system. What we, well, I won't get too much into it, but anyways, we're going to have a stable coin, and that stable coin will be the basis of our payment system. So we actually have a very bright and very energetic woman who's on our team, who's actually in the U.S. banking industry right now, and I think she's going to be integral in making sure that we have the right things in place to be able to do that.
Awesome. So we have a question here. They want to know more about the exchange listings.
So Dexi is currently listed on LBank and MEXC. Also P2P from back in June, although there's not a lot of volume there. And then obviously PancakeSwap. And Dexi Gas is listed on LBank and PancakeSwap. We were kind of holding off on doing exchange listings as we were building up to the launch of the Smart Dexio network and the migration of the Smart Dexio network, because we were, I think, falsely under the impression that was going to become a huge problem for us on the exchanges. And maybe it was going to be a problem, but now it's not. So the exchanges that we're listing on are going to help facilitate that migration of the tokens that are in wallets on their exchange. So I've already clarified that with both LBank and MEXC. So we had a lot of conversations, and I think really positive conversations with Gate.io. And then they, basically came back to us and said that they wanted to see us list on some other exchanges and increase our volume before they listed us. So we're still working on that relationship. We started a conversation with some representatives from KuCoin, but then kind of backed off of that as we realized that we needed to put some more things in place. So we're going to continue to list on exchanges that make sense for us. I don't think that it's really that useful for us to just incessantly list on tier 2 and tier 3 exchanges. We need to get on a top 10 exchange. And so we're working on increasing our volume and getting our products out there. I think the most important thing about all of that is that, we are not focused on, pumping the coins, right? That's not what we want. And anybody that's been in the community long enough, that's been around these conversations that Don and I have had in live streams, and then also in the community chat and voice chats and all that. We are very opposed to this sort of pump and dumping thing that happens. And actually, it happened to us in October. We had this huge parabolic motion in the chart for both Dexi and DexiGas once DexiGas was launched. And, and then there was a big decline because that's what happens when charts pump like that. You have a whole bunch of moon boys run in, and then, they got a whole bunch of moon boys run out, right? That's so we're very focused on the products, right? We want the products to speak for themselves, and then we can market those products. We're not going to market hype. We're not going to market, bullshit. We're going to market real things. And so we get this when marketing stuff. Look, trying to be the loudest person in an already very loud room is not very useful, okay? Screaming at the top of your lungs around 1,000 other people screaming at the top of your lungs
Doesn't make sense.
It's not a way to be heard, okay? And most marketing that's happening right now in the crypto space is a whole bunch of people screaming at the top of their lungs, right? We're working on and doing more sophisticated ways to connect with more sophisticated investors. We want to talk to the people who are thoughtful, who are interested in what we're doing long term. And we want to connect with those people and speak to those people about what we're doing. And we're doing that through LinkedIn. We're doing that through, press releases, PR releases, through Yahoo News, Yahoo Finance, things like that. We're trying to have a sophisticated way of not just trying to grab a whole bunch of people who are probably going to be moon boys, but trying to find the right people and bring those people in. And we have a lot of those people. I mean, we have, I speak to a lot of our investors and people, trust me to share their holdings with me. And so I know, who has big bags. And we have a lot of people that have sizable investments in Dexi and DexiGas that are very committed to what we're doing. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to dump their bags. This is a long-term thing for them because they know that we're committed to a long-term plan. So again, exchange listings, it's important, but the next exchange listing that we have needs to be a tier 1 exchange. And I think that's going to happen probably pretty soon because once we launch Dexi Hunter, and we get the full P2E PvP mechanics going at Dexy Nights, and we launch the Dragons and Carnival betas, there's going to be a flood, right? There's going to be a flood of people who are interested in what we're doing because they're going to be excited about the games. And those games are going to market themselves. What's the best way to market? It's going to be word of mouth. It's going to be people talking to people. It's going to be regular people who are, posting on their social media, talking to their friends. That's how you spread the word. It's not being the loudest person in an already loud room.
That's true. I agree with you. Doesn't make sense. Totally. I have a final question for you, Greg, and that is, how did you meet Don? In
Okay.
this entire 1 hour conversation, we have heard so much about Don. So I'd like to know, how did you meet the founder?
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, Don does a lot of these almost with me and voice chats, and we do live streams together. I tend to talk a lot, as you can tell. So, and actually, Don and I were on the call right before I got on with you, working through some stuff. So, I'm sure he's listening to this too. But we've become very good friends. Like, he's family to me now. So, we really. We trust each other to talk about the things that we talk about. So, but how do we meet? So this is a good question. So I got on a Reddit post the last week of May. And Victor's asking about the supply reduction in the chat.
Yeah.
Address that really quick. Yeah, when we migrate to the Smart Dexio network, we we are going to reduce the supply. So the current existing circulating supply of Dexi is roughly 300 billion. We're going to do a 1 to 1,000 reduction, so we'll have 300 million Dexi. And DexiGas, the current circulating supply is roughly 200 billion. We're going to do a 1 to 100 and end up with 2 billion DexiGas. So the reason for that is because these insane supplies are a crutch and a deterrent to more, I think, traditional sophisticated investors. And if we want to compete on the level with, Solana, ETH, BTC, these bigger projects, we need to have a more reasonable supply. And so that's why we're going to do that. But again, so how did I meet Don? I got on a Reddit post. I was, I'd never really invested in microcaps. I was always investing in, basically sticking to like Coinbase and Binance and Binance.us and normal exchanges, right? And I shouldn't say normal, but anyways, bigger, more accessible exchanges, right? And so I got on a Reddit post for crypto moonshots and saw a post about Pokemon Go for crypto, and I was like, well, that's really interesting. So I went into the Reddit post and I ended up in a Telegram chat for a project called Split Protocol, and I was in the Telegram chat trying to figure out how to buy Split Protocol. And Don sent me a private message and said, hey, man, I think these guys it's a scam because they just ripped off our website and our whole, marketing platform. And they're just, have copied everything that we're doing. And they're saying that they're launching this token, and I don't think that they are. And so I looked at it and I looked at Dexio Protocol and I was like, oh, yeah, they did really just rip this off.
Mm.
And so I ended up joining I didn't buy any Split Protocol, and it did end up being a rug pull. And I joined the Telegram chat, and Don and I just continued to have, sort of friendly conversations for a couple of weeks. And then, because of some of our interactions, he asked me to get on a team call with him and Tuan and a couple other people. And we just started talking, and then he asked me to join the team. And I started kind of working on some of the operation stuff. And again, I'm an old man, so much older than most of the other people, so I had a lot more experience. And so after I think about a month, Don asked me to become his business partner and to take over as the chief operating officer for the company. So that's how that happened.
Very interesting. So actually, internet made you meet your Don, and to make you start Dexi protocol together. That's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Well, and a rug pull, right? A rug pull brought us together. So.
It's very eventful, and it's a very interesting story. I'm happy I saved the story for last, and I got to know it in the end. All right. Before we, end this conversation, I have a couple of quick rapid fire question for you, so you don't have time to think. First thing that comes in your mind, you share. Your idol,
What was that?
your idol, somebody you
Oh,
admire,
idol?
idol.
My father.
Your father. All right. So you said you're an avid reader. So what podcasts or blogs do you keep reading to keep yourself updated?
So I actually dip on Coinbase a lot and pick up off of what is on there,
Mhm.
crypto stuff. So I end up on, a lot of times on Coin Telegraph, Coin Bureau. I actually spend a lot of time on for international stuff. I spend a lot of time on a couple of different blog stuff, a blog called Zero Hedge and another one called Moon of Alabama. That just kind of like, you know, points me in the right direction. And then I'm able to kind of research and figure out things from there, and read stuff from all over the place. I actually read Matt Taibbi's Substack a lot. Um, I'm a subscriber there, and there's a woman named Caitlin Johnstone who has a blog that she's just kind of funny and smart, and again points me in the right direction and gets me to think about things differently. So those are the places that I look. And I'm on LinkedIn a lot. People are posting stuff. There's a lot of stuff that gets sent to me from Reddit and all kinds of other places that
Mhm.
also keys me into stuff. So usually it's just, something interests me, and then I'll look further into it, right? I don't just read whatever somebody's writing and like, oh, that's truth. It's like, I read something and I'm like, wait a minute, like let me research this and think this through.
Uh, Makes sense. The influencers you follow.
Well, so we're friends with Tyler Hill from Tyler Hill Investing. Tyler's an awesome guy, so I tend and I like his technical analysis. I think he does really honest, thoughtful technical analysis. So I follow that. I do watch the guys from Altcoin Daily quite a bit. I think that they tend to do a good job. They actually did a video on Dexio back
Right.
in November. Um, and to be honest, it wasn't very well done. They missed some things. It was okay, but it doesn't mean that I don't enjoy their perspective about things. And again, people send me stuff all the time, so I'm constantly um, you know getting stuff from our community and from our team members. So I'm looking at stuff. there's a Twitter influencer, Lemon Crypto. I really like Lemon's stuff. I think his perspective about things. I mean, he's like constantly pumping VRA, but
Mhm.
besides that, which I don't think it's a bad thing to pump. I think that's a quality project, but I think he's got thoughtful perspective on things too.
Awesome. Nice. So being an entrepreneur for so many years, what are your ways to keep yourself motivated?
Well, so it's interesting because there was a Twitter post from somebody who's become a friend of the project in which he describes my devs and I think me as lazy at one point because we weren't listing on enough exchanges for his liking, and he took that back. I don't know if Scott's watching this or not, but I think that's the first time in my entire life that anyone has ever called me lazy. As my community can attest to, and my team can attest to, I don't really sleep very much.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
You were up and on calls before this call, so for
yeah.
sure.
It's a genetic thing. I think I sleep like maybe 4 or 5 hours a day at the most. But and uh, I have kind of two modes, right? I have constructive and destructive.
Like
So
everyone.
right. So I'm either doing something very useful or I'm doing something that's not good, right? So I try to just keep myself focused on things that are useful, and I try to kind of put unattainable goals in front of myself, right? I mean, I know that what I'm putting in front of myself is not really necessarily achievable in the time frame that I've set it out there to do. But I read a quote from the founder of Intel once that said, "If you find yourself succeeding at everything that you're doing, then you're not trying hard enough.
Oh,
Challenging
very
yourself,
interesting.
right?" So I like to present, and my team can attest to this too. Like give like deadlines and things, and they're like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen in that time frame." I'm like, "We'll try." Um, so um, uh, I keep myself motivated because I still own two other businesses, my music lesson company and my home remodeling company. So I'm still involved in those businesses too, and so I always have something to do, and I have three small children, relatively small children, and a girlfriend, and so I have a lot of stuff going on, and there's always something for me to do, so it's not hard to stay motivated.
That's amazing. A movie that has been an inspiration or something that inspires you.
Well, I think probably the most important film that has maybe ever been made, that's certainly been made in my lifetime, is The Matrix.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it inspires me to think about how the narrative construct is often pervasive and invasive. It's important to make sure that you're not um, allowing yourself to be guided simply by the narrative around you, right? To think differently, to think outside of the box, and to make sure that you're independently understanding reality, right? And that movie is an important reminder to me all the time. I often watch clips of it, and sometimes I put it on before I go to bed. I think it's an incredibly important metaphor for why we need to make sure that we're thinking independently.
Very interesting. And a book that you recommend everyone to read.
Well, probably the most important book I ever read in my understanding of the world around me is a book called Demian by Hermann Hesse.
Mhm.
It was kind of a revolutionary set of concepts for me when I read it when I was like 16 years old.
Oh,
Um, and since I've read everything that Herman Hesse ever wrote, he's definitely my favorite author. But as it goes to you know crypto, I think the most important thing people can be doing is trying to stay on top of all of the new things that are happening and making sure that you're thinking critically about what people are doing. Again, like the Wonderland thing. I mean, everybody around me when Wonderland was kind of blowing up was all Wonderland, time Wonderland, Wonderland. And I took one look at it, and just any critical thinker took one look at that and was like, wait, what are they doing? Um, and I was telling people like, don't do that, and some of our friends and investors that were invested in, I was like, get out. I usually don't like to give financial advice to people or make price predictions of any kind, but that was one I was like, yeah, that's not a sustainable thing. And of course, the whole thing crashed and fell apart and all that. So I was vindicated in that sense. But it's really important to think critically about what you're reading, right? Not just as I said, when I read blog posts or Reddit posts or whatever, I don't just read it and take it for verbatim for fact, right? I take the information and I try to figure out whether or not it's correct. And one of the most important things that I think I try to do in my life, in my business life, in my personal life, is I try to surround myself with people who have different points of view and are going to challenge what I think and what I say to make me, either really come to terms with what I believe, right? When you say something, or you present some idea you have or some conviction you have, and people challenge that, if you can't stand up to that challenge, then you don't really understand your convictions, right? So
Yeah.
people challenge us and challenge the way that we think and challenge what we think we know. It does one of two things for us. Either it solidifies our own understanding of what we think and believe, or it encourages us to consider um, the problems in how we're thinking and seeing the world, right? So it's important to have people around you that can challenge you, and it's important to constantly be open-minded about those challenges, right? And not just this is the way, well, no, it's, I mean, maybe it's not the way. I don't know.
Makes sense. Thanks a lot, Greg, for taking out time, and we overshot our, our designated time from from 45 minutes, but it was an amazing conversation that I had with you. Some really great insights, and I really am looking forward to, exploring Dexi protocol games myself and seeing how it can go about.
I,
Before we, sorry, please, you see.
I know. I just wanted to tell you I'm super grateful for the conversation. I'm sorry that it ran over.
No, no, I am very happy. I didn't even realize. I just saw the time and I was like, all right, we extended our time. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you. Before we sign off, I would like to, give you the stage and have any message you have for our community members to, share with them.
Well, yeah, I mean, for anybody that's listening to this that doesn't already know our project and all of us, we welcome new people and we welcome new ideas. One of the things I think you'll find in our community, in our Telegram chat, and then also just in general in our other communities, um, you'll find a pretty open space for people to ask questions and talk about things, present ideas, and a lot of really friendly, fun people. I often say to the people I work with, it's important to um, do serious work, and it's important to take that work seriously, but it's really important not to take yourself too seriously. And so we try to have as much fun as we can. And we're constantly sort of self-deprecating and joking around, but and I mean, honestly, especially the executive team chats, I would hate for an HR person to ever read that stuff because it's like this is so inappropriate. But I mean, it's funny and we're all friends, So, but we try to have a really lively, active, friendly community, and come hang out with us and tell us what you think and present your ideas, and we want to you know we want to connect with you, and I don't mean that like as some it's not just something I'm saying. We really do want to connect with new people, and we want to connect with you guys. And join us and come talk to us. We're always available.
Well, I would really like to, work with your team sometime and see, because I really have enjoyed talking to you, and I'm sure your team is as lively as you are, and it'll be amazing to see how they're going. Thanks
Well,
a lot. Sorry.
no,
Go
well, yeah, we'd love to have you, man, as long as you can take inappropriateness. Um,
ahead.
it's just, yeah, we're wildly inappropriate sometimes. I'll say that.
It's okay. I am
Uh,
also myself like to keep myself, very chilled and not take things very seriously about. So I'm
yeah,
sure that'll get along very well. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Greg, for taking out time and talking to all of us.
thank you very much, you guys. I really enjoyed this, and thank you so much. And I look forward to working with you further.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you again very soon with another amazing speaker.
Bye.
Bye.